It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Just Bernard Show. We are going to be speaking with Michael LoPatriello today in just a few moments. Michael's got a great story to share, and the reason why I wanted him to come on the show is I know that many of us go through these awakening experiences, and I thought it would be great to have someone who, like myself, went through that experience and ended up writing a book about it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before I bring him on the show, I just wanted to take a moment and welcome you all, let you all sign in, join, and please feel free to leave some comments or ask some questions down below the player here. And hopefully, if we're watching live with you, we'll be able to answer some of them later on. Anyway, so as you all know, I don't know about you, but it has been a little bit of a hectic, I was going to say a hectic week. We all know, well, most of us who keep an eye on things know that Mercury went into retrograde and we just had a full moon. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like my karma is being burned away with a flamethrower or something. My moods have been insanely crazy the last few days. And I was thinking, maybe it was the full moon, maybe it was Mercury retrograde. But I have to admit, it feels like it's been since the beginning of the year that I've been feeling this amazing hold on to your seat type roller coaster ride, but I know it's going in the right direction, and I can't help but wonder, is it the New Year intention that I did? And it kind of reminds me, watch out what you wish for. So everything's going in the right direction. It's just been a crazy ride. So I wonder if any of you all have been going through the same thing. Anyway, so I have some more news. Oh, before I forget, let me also let you know and remind you all that I don't know how many of you, I hope most of my listeners know and viewers know who Art Bell was. But as you know, Art Bell passed away last year, and his protege, Heather Wade, had taken over for a little while. Well, she took some time off after Art Bell passed away, and she will be returning to the airwaves. As a matter of fact, I think she started back again last week. Anyway, they've reached out to me a couple weeks ago. I have been on Midnight in the Desert, and the new show is going to be The Kingdom of Nye with Heather Wade. As you know, The Kingdom of Nye was another one of Art Bell's side projects, and I should be coming on in about 4 weeks from the broadcast of this particular show, so it's really nice to be one of the first people invited back to the Art Bell world, as I like to call it. Anyway, if you all know me and listen to me, I've always said it was Art Bell who inspired me to start doing this work. I had been listening to him since, the mid-90s, staying up all night listening to him. And yes, it is going to be an all-nighter for me because the show comes on at midnight here on the East Coast. So I'll be on from midnight till 4 a.m., just like the old days. But that should be a lot of fun. Also, if you are here in the region or you are planning to travel to the Roanoke Valley region, or the Blue Ridge Mountain region, at the end of March, I am going to be offering a tarot masterclass. A lot of people have been asking me, how do I do the tarot? Is it a good idea to give myself a reading? No, don't. At least you'll know why when I teach the class. But I am going to be doing a full 3.5-hour masterclass here in Roanoke at the end of March. Keep an eye out on my website as well as on my Facebook page. I believe we're only charging $30 for it, and the proceeds will be going to help the Roanoke Diversity Center here in Roanoke, Virginia. So it's also for a good cause as well as feeding your spirit. That class, not that particular one, will be recorded, but I will be doing a live version of the Tarot Masterclass in the coming months. So we'll be able to do it live. We'll be able to spend maybe like a Saturday afternoon together, and we'll spend several hours, and I'll go and teach you everything I know about tarot that I've learned over the last 30 years. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about Michael. Michael went through a profound spiritual experience. He feels that his third eye suddenly blew wide open. It created a strong connection with everything there is, as we all know, when we have that awakening. And he did write a book about it, and we're going to be talking about that as well. So without further ado, let's welcome Michael LoPatriello to the show. Hi, Michael. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm really glad to have you on the show, and I really, I'm glad you reached out to me. As you heard me say, I love hearing awakening stories, and I think it's really important for people that are going through the same experience to kind of, gauge what they're going through and compare, so they know they're not going crazy, for
Right.
lack of a better term.
Right.
It's good to know that we're not alone. So you did write a book. I forgot, where is it here? The Eye Opening. I love it.
Yeah.
A great title for a book. You did write The Eye Opening about your experience. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what led up to the experience? Where did you come from? Did you have a spiritual path? Just tell us a little bit of background.
Okay. Yeah. Growing up, I had a great childhood, and what really started me searching for deeper answers was I started having these experiences when I was in middle school. I now call them heart openings, but then others around me would have said I just had anxiety attacks and emotional breakdowns. I would start, it usually would start as a panic attack, anxiety, racing of the mind. I couldn't figure out what was going on. A pressure felt to my chest, shortness of breath, and then eventually it'd become too much, overwhelming, and I feel like I would let go or surrender. And it led to me sobbing, basically. And nothing really outside of it prompted these things. And it was uncomfortable at first because I'd be, in random places and everyone's like, geez, what's wrong? Why are you sad? But the feeling behind it was unbelievable. And it felt like my heart would open. This energy would come out. My mind would kind of hush, go into a silence. I'd feel like kind of like a child held. And this overwhelming presence and feeling of love and just, it's okay. This feeling of like you're taken care of. And that changed everything because I was like, what was that? No one else around me seems to be having this. And, I was in middle school, so it's pretty young. So that's really, and they happened infrequently, but enough where it was like, okay, this is a thing, something's happening. So that's what led me to start reading books and looking into things, because nothing in school could explain what was happening to me. So that's
what did you find that lead you down the path of meditation or shamanism or studying Jungian psychology? What kind of books were you interested in when you were searching?
So when I first started searching, it wasn't till I guess second half of high school, and first book was Autobiography of a Yogi. That was my first book. And then because I really didn't know I was starting at ground zero kind of, I didn't know where to look. But then I started looking into yoga, mostly, Indian philosophy like Upanishads. I read Bhagavad Gita, and then Tao Te Ching. And then I got into Gnostic, Nag Hammadi Library, the Gospel of Thomas, other sources of Jesus sayings. So I kind of tried to research as much as I could. So I guess I wouldn't say a certain single thing, but later on became more into yoga.
But around what year was this? Well, actually, I should ask you, moving forward a little bit. So you had this profound experience. Around what year was that you had your third eye opening experience?
That was 2007.
Wow. Okay.
So I just graduated high school 2006. And then I went to Naropa University, and then the spring semester I was studying abroad in Prague, and that's when it happened. So I was in Prague, Czech Republic, and do you want me, should I explain the experience or?
Yeah, absolutely. But actually, yeah. But remind me about 2007 when we're done, because I want to mention something. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
So tell us what happened. You were traveling around and.
Yeah, I was doing study abroad, and at this point I was very almost antisocial in how much I was into reading more about spirituality, because the things that, the heart openings that kept happening, call them heart openings again, I'd just start sobbing, have this feeling. So I was getting really into it, really reading a lot. Again, like Upanishads, Tao Te Ching, all these different sources, kind of connecting the dots and getting excited. So I was in Prague. It was springtime. It was really beautiful. All the trees were in bloom. I was in a park. It was on Petrin Hill. It's just a hill overlooking the city. And I was on the cell phone with my mom, and I forget exactly what we were talking about, something maybe really excited all of a sudden. I was getting excited, something about spirituality. And all of a sudden I had that feeling again of the pressure in the heart. It actually feels like a physical kind of ache, you know, and I kind of felt it, and then I felt it, that same feeling of the heart opening happening. So I stayed on the phone with her and I started to sob. And she was like, "It's okay, like what's wrong?" I couldn't really talk, so I was like, you know, pretty heavy sobbing, kind of like an infant. So I sat down beneath a tree in the park, and I of course I talk about this in my book, but it's really indescribable. I'll try my best, right, how to describe it. But in that moment, sobbing, feel the heart open, that energy, that like it's very tangible, loving energy, and then it rose up. I felt it kind of come up in my arms and up my feet and then up to my head. And then when I blinked my eyes, I felt my forehead go boom, and it kind of shook my whole body. And it was so intense that I compared it to an orgasm, but even kind of more intense, of course, not in the genitalia, it was in my forehead. But that kind of intensity where I was like kind of overwhelmed by it, just like, oh, what's happened? You know, I'm blinking. And every time it would shake my whole body. And the feeling, again, undescribable, but this presence, it's looking out through me, right? So it's this grander, bigger, wiser presence. Again, it felt like a cosmic mother maybe picked me up and said, hush, 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 it's okay, I'm here. And that wisdom and perception, it was almost like I became a window and was looking through me. And I looked around, and as before, the heart openings, I'd feel it within me very much. But now it's like that opening in me opened everything around me, right? Like we are the door, right? As when you open, or when I open, then everything opens. And I looked around, and again, very hard to describe, but everything was still there, of course, you know, but everything was shimmering, kind of this very visible, shimmering, glistening light, this love light, I like to call it, because it was very, could feel it very much, you know, not just see it, but feel it. And it kind of makes me emotional just talking about it, because I kind of start to feel it again. And it was overwhelming, and just it totally changed. I don't know, you know, it just, my paradigm was totally shifted. Like, what is this? Like everything, you know, everything's one, right? And that was the experience. And it was so intense because the light that I would see in a distant tree, it was distant, but at the same time it wasn't distant, because it was the same light that was right here that my forehead eye or third eye was sensing. So this feeling of like distance was nothing. This feeling of like that light there is right here, and which is again hard to describe. But anyway, that was my experience. And again, those few words don't even come close to the overwhelming sensation, right? But it changed my life, and it was unbelievable at first.
That sounds, well, profound, and again, beyond words. And it sounds like what you did experience is beyond words, because I think once we go through that experience, we realize like you can't really put it into words. You have to have that experience. It's very very well profound, and I'm sure it must have changed your life immediately. And I have to ask you, I know for me and for many people that went through these you know, instant awakenings, for lack of a better term, epiphanies, a lot of times we don't know how to digest it, and how to make sense of it in our day-to-day life. Okay, well, now I have all this information, but I still got to get up, I still got to go to work, I still got to, you know, feed the cat, I still and I still have to make money, and it's very, very difficult to kind of bridge the two of understanding that nothing matters, but everything matters, and then how to bring that into our day-to-day life and ground that. And it leads a lot of people into, you know, psychological issues, drug issues, anger issues, what I call the symptoms of awakening, body aches, headaches, whatever it may be, trying to get that. And I wonder, what was your experience like after that? Was it easy for you to apply it in your day-to-day, or did it take some time for you to wrap your head around it?
That's a really good question, because for me it was not easy. Again, it didn't stay open. It was like an eruption, and then it kind of fizzled away, and then I was back to normal perception. And being pretty young, I guess, and innocent and naive, it was very hard for me. I basically kept it to myself out of fear of apathy or, just not no understanding from other people. I told my, close relatives, but only my mom, basically only my mom and sister. So I didn't integrate it very well. And actually, and I talk about this in my book, it led me to kind of a psychic trauma, I guess you could say. It took me a long time afterwards to figure out what happened, but I went back to school, but shortly thereafter, everything kind of seemed like, what am I doing? Like sitting in a lecture hall after that experience, I'm like, what am I, like everything changes. It's like, I should probably just seek this, this seems very important, this experience. How can I listen to I don't know. So I started to get this anxiety, this anxiousness, and I went into a fast. I basically told myself I'm not gonna, which was, looking back, it was too extreme. I wasn't gentle enough with myself, but I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna basically sit, not eat, in a dark room. I told myself to do a fast, and it kind of led me into a kind of a, I wouldn't say psychotic break, but people outside would say that. Basically, stop talking, stop responding, and reality became more dreamlike, right? And I kind of got into fear. And I wasn't doing anything, but just in my mind, everything became very synchronistic. But since I was in a state of mind, I went into a state of fear. It's kind of like a waking nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely had, like you just described exactly, these not a good adjustment. My mom sent me to the hospital because she didn't know what to do with me. I wasn't responding, and I feel bad that I put her through that. And then they put me on a bunch of medication because they couldn't figure it out. They said I was bipolar, schizophrenic, mania, just because I wasn't responding. I was so in my head in this fantasy. And it took a long time to wean. I left. I stopped taking all those drugs, and I weaned off of them, antidepressants, antipsychotics. And so it was very traumatic after that. So it was such a, on the end of the spectrum, right? This crazy high experience of amazement, love, and then this fear kind of nightmare, I call it. And I explain it better in my book. But so, yeah, I did not integrate it well at all. It didn't. And really, it's taken me this long, it's 2020 now, to finally kind of open back up. Like, I need to share this. I need to reconnect with this. Because after that experience, I went back to school, started drinking, started partying, started doing drugs, and kind of felt like a failure spiritually.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I did not integrate it well at all. So now I'm finally coming back around.
I'm very grateful you did it. I'm glad you made it through to the other side. Our stories are very parallel. Mine was in the early 90s, and the late 90s was Party Boy Central. And it wasn't until the mid 2000s, early 2000s, that someone finally said, you got to write this book and you got to share this information. And thank God YouTube came about that time. But with that being said, during that time for me, and I'm just sharing this with you because hopefully it'll help those that are listening, and maybe it might be something you want to look into, is I was lucky enough, I had a shamanic practitioner who was in my life at that time. And he said to me, you need to look up the difference. He kind of gave me an assignment. Look up the difference between schizophrenia and shamanic emergence. He said the two are very similar. He goes, if you study the cultures, and I did. I had to write a paper. Right? Is it spiritual emergence or schizophrenia? And what are the parallels and what are the differences? And it gave me a little more clarity of like, okay, well, this is kind of normal for people like us, who have this like inclination for spiritual awareness, that we might come off a little crazy. And to this day, I'm a proud eccentric, but but that was very helpful. And I just wanted to go back to 2007. It's very interesting and happened to you about that time. It was, for me, my spiritual emergence, I had a shamanic vision class, so mine was controlled. However, it was in 1992, but again, I didn't quite know how to handle it, and I kind of stuffed it all away until about 2004, 2005, where the beings that I had met started popping back in my life again. And they were showing up in my dreams. They were showing up at the foot of my bed. And they were like, you know, you need to write this book. And then I met someone that said, you need to write this book. And my partner said, you need to write this book. And as I went out there, we started the Global Illumination Council back then, which is how I started all of this. And it was at that time where it seemed like a lot of people were having the same experience. They were having that spiritual reawakening. Those of us that might have had that awakening in the 80s and the 90s, all of a sudden, mid-2000s, thanks to maybe the internet or whatnot, there was like a wave of new consciousness. And I mean, we had 45,000 members within a year. And I started the GIC for that reason, so people could find each other. But what's interesting, the reason why I bring it up, I like the fact that you're saying it's 2007, it happened to you, is one of the messages I received from my guides right before the new year was that 2020 was going to be another one of those years where we're going to see a surge again of more and more people awakening again. So it's like the next generation, and it just kind of gives me goosebumps just thinking about that. So anyway, so you were able to put your thoughts down in a book.
Right. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the book and how was it for you to kind of like reapproach it and I guess have the courage to come back to it and put it down into a book?
That was very needed, you know, it's therapeutic, right? I started writing it and I was like, why didn't I do this earlier? And it came about with playing a game with my girlfriend, pulling cards, questions. Say, what would you do if you only had one more year to live? And one of them was, I want to share this experience. It was so profound for me, you know, it was unbelievable that I wanted to share it. So that's what led to it. But it was a great experience writing it. Once I started, I couldn't stop. And yeah, here's a copy of it right here. Let's
see the cover because I forgot to upload the cover. Thank you.
There's a cover. Yeah.
Did you do the art or did someone do it for you?
No, my cousin's girlfriend, Heather Pratt, she did. She's a really good artist. So yeah, she drew that for me.
It's brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, she did a good job. Thank you. Yeah. And
I was trying to find the clip art. I guess it's not clip art.
Yeah, and I have a lot of quotes in there, which I think is cool. I wanted to offer that too for people because I did a lot of my own research and connected. And for me, I found 9 themes that I kind of find in all spirituality. And I put that in there. That's half the book, basically. It's just that exploring the 9 themes that I can relate to, that my experiences totally correlate to. And it was cool doing my research because, like you said, like confirmation or hearing other people's stories, not feeling like you're the only one. So reading these ancient texts, hearing these quotes, it's kind of like confirmation. Like, yeah, this is human potential. We're just have forgotten. You know, this is ancient knowledge maybe, but it's still what we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With that being said, I'm going to get into a profound metaphysical question here, but with that being said, what you just offered, I had someone literally accuse me of ripping off the Tao Te Ching when I wrote my book, and I'm like, I wonder if you see this. The more I read and the more I hear of people's stories, people's experiences, I can't help but feel that this is just collective, a collective unconscious knowledge that is there for everybody. And it's just the way that we translate it or try to bring it into the physical realm, because it's so hard to bridge that gap from, the source material and try to bring it into this material plane to kind of express it in a way that someone can understand. But I just found like the themes are universal, and it has, it's not a personal experience. It really is a collective experience, and we just happen to have tapped into that. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
No, I totally agree. And I think that critique was kind of a compliment. She's saying,
yeah,
that's straight, because like as you read, the more things you read, it's all saying the same stuff, maybe through different culture or metaphors or, dramas that plays out. But yeah, totally. It's like and once you have those experiences, you really understand it's all shared, the unity,
right.
It's all shared. It's not just me, this is in everyone. And so I totally agree with that. You're just tapping into something that everyone can tap into.
Absolutely. And what would you, in your experience, I should ask, in your experience, what has been the best method for you to revisit that energy or reconnect with that? What would you offer our viewers on a technique perhaps to either tap back into it or at least to ground ourselves where we don't make ourselves too crazy from learning that information?
Right. That's a good question. Yeah. For me, pranayama or breath work
Mhm.
is just my go-to tool.
Mhm.
Of course, meditation too, but I find even breath work is just, if you have not that much time, even if you're in line or something, you can do it anywhere. It's easy to do. It doesn't require a change. It does change your mental process, whatever, or your state of mind, but it doesn't require you to be like, you know what I mean, to effort into your thought pattern. You can literally just start deeply breathing and it changed it for you. It's like
Yeah.
automatic. So it's very easy. And I notice in my experiences, I'm sobbing, right? And when you're sobbing, you're already doing a pattern of deep breathing. So it's like it kind of induces that sensation, for me at least, again, is doing the deep. And there's all the different techniques, right? Through the nose, out the nose. It's all breathing. I feel like you do whatever feels best for you, But definitely deep breathing before meditation, anywhere you're at, it totally resets your state of mind, your state of being, and for me, it connects me back into that expansiveness.
Very cool. And well, thank you for sharing all of that. How is life now? How have you been able to apply it for you now? How's life now? What's next for Michael?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because like I was saying, a long time I was like, well, I failed in my naivety, right? Naivete as a kid. I was like, I feel like I failed. I kind of gave it all up. So now I'm kind of coming back to it and really getting more into it, becoming more self-disciplined, because before, I was kind of gave up and just doing drinking and I don't know, not caring. But now I'm getting back into it. What's next for me? I'm not entirely sure. I live most of the year in Brazil. Maybe write more, but I want to just share this book with as many people as I can, because I think I would love to have read an account like this when I was really seeking.
Mm.
For other people looking for answers, keep looking, because that's this kind of encouragement I think is important to share, which is great about nowadays, the internet and everything. It's so easy to share information. But so next for me, I don't know. I'm excited to dive more deeply into this and commit to it as my life and my way of life, because before I totally dropped it. So not entirely sure yet, but right now, just more self-discipline and every day maintaining that state of being, or priming yourself for that state of being, becoming more conscious, more aware.
Absolutely. Mindfulness is key, I always say. Be
Yeah.
mindful of where you were, so it'll
Right.
take you where you need to go.
Right.
And
Yeah.
when I mean where you were, that connection with spirit, I'm like, always remember, that sensation, that aha moment. And if we can tap into that and be mindful of that in our everyday life, it unfolds. It doesn't matter how hard the road is, it's still the road to enlightenment.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes
Totally.
that drinking, that partying in our 20s or whatnot is a part of the unfolding process.
Yeah.
And I like that word. What do you call it? A spiritual breakdown or psychic breakdown? Or
Psychic trauma.
psychic trauma. Yeah, my friend called it a spiritual whiplash when it happened to me.
Yeah.
Much too fast, but yeah. Anyway, so tell us, where can we find the book? Is it on Amazon? Do you have a website? You want to tell us a little bit?
Yeah. The book's on Amazon. Really the only place you can get it right now. It's on Amazon, The Eye Opening. I also have a website, theeyeopening.com, that just talks more about me and the book, but then on that site, it's links back to Amazon. So if you want to get the book, it's on Amazon. And it tells my story. But I think the really cool part is obviously the personal experience, but the quotes. Really cool resource for a lot of different quotes saying the same message.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Well, everybody, remember, it's The Eye Opening, and you can find it on Amazon.com. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your story with us and spending this time with me today. I think it's going to be very helpful to some people that are watching it. Everyone,
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I will see you all next week. I took off last week, but I will be back next week. I'm not sure what we're going to be covering next week. We'll see. I've been getting a lot of downloads lately, so let's see what happens the day before the show next week. Also, please remember, keep an eye out for my appearance on The Kingdom of Nine with Heather Wade. I just got booked on another show. I'm not quite sure what day it's going to be on. It's another light workers support type show, so I'm looking forward to that. And also, if you are in Roanoke, please keep an eye out for Knowing the Tarot Masterclass that I will be teaching at the end of March, with proceeds going to benefit the Roanoke Diversity Center. And then we will be doing an online version of that probably in April, and I'll let you know more then. Thank you, everybody. I love you. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.